So this is the UC Berkeley Online Masters in Public Health Graduate Writing Workshop. We're going to cover our introduction so that you know who we are. We're going to talk about why your essays matter to your application. There are two essays which we will talk about during this session, give you some tips and pointers, and help you understand what they bring to the overall application review process. We'll leave you with some tips, and then, as I mentioned, we'll do Q&A. But we're really excited to share with you and talk a little bit more. So thank you for spending some time with us this evening. And my name is Elise Rudolph. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment here with our online MPH. And I'll pass things over to my wonderful colleague, Stephanie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Stephanie Nguyen. My pronouns are she, her. And as the online education recruitment manager, Elise and I work closely together to support you with learning more about the program. We work so closely with our star person of the show today, Abby, which we'll introduce in just a second. But we are here to provide just information about the program, admissions process. And without further ado, I would love to pass this along to our wonderful student, Abby Joy Gertie, who is our interdisciplinary MPH candidate who is soon to finish the program. Would love to just call you out and see if you have anything else you'd like to share.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here and walk through the writing process with you all. So yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Amazing. Yes, we're really excited to have Abby on, who, as Stephanie mentioned, is one of our current students and get her insight into the application process. And, all applications are going to ask you for essays. UC Berkeley does ask for two essays, your personal history statement and your statement of purpose. A lot of times folks ask us, what is the difference? They sound so similar. But I want to really drill in that having two essays, I think, is actually a huge opportunity because this is your opportunity to tell the admissions committee your story in your words. You get to describe your own background. Where you want to go, why you want to pursue an MPH. And so many parts of the application are sort of fixed at the time you apply. Your transcript is what it is. Your grades are what they are. Your letters of recommendation are they're someone else's perspective. Your resume is what it is at the time you apply. But your personal history statement and your statement of purpose are your opportunity to add more information to the narrative that your transcripts and your resume provide. So you get to fill in all the blanks. You get to actually describe yourself, your goals. You get to share lived experiences that you had. You can add context to a particularly hard academic term. You can talk about any gaps in your resume. So it's really such a fantastic opportunity to advocate for yourself and to convince the admissions committee why this is the right place for you at the right time and where you want to go. We will describe a little bit more about what makes the personal history statement unique from your statement of purpose in just a moment. But one thing I sort of like to share right off the bat is that your personal history statement is just that. It is a personal history statement. This is, your opportunity to share about your lived experiences, how certain things in your life have connected you to public health or to UC Berkeley, how all of your lived experiences, professional experiences, academic experiences have really led you to this moment. And your statement of purpose tends to be a little more forward looking. So, where do you want to go? Why this degree? Where do you hope this degree will take you? What are your interests in public health? Things like that. This is also the place to, as I mentioned, talk about any gaps in your resume or those a hard academic term that you had, what might have been going on in your life during that moment. So both have unique goals and really add so much to the admissions committee's understanding of who you are as a person and as an applicant and a fit for our program. Yeah, and I'll hand it over to Stephanie to dig in a little bit deeper into your personal history statement.
Yes, before I move forward, I just wanted to share that these slides will be presented in a follow-up email, and we will also share the recording all in one email. So you'll have what you need to explore after the session. So with the personal history checklist, what we've gathered are a few pointers on ways to keep your statements constructed and connected to each other. There's many avenues that you can take. You can approach your personal history statement from a more surface level if what's drawn you to public health is from it's motivated by a professional scenario. Maybe you want to upskill, or perhaps there was formative experiences. Whatever your landing is, the personal history statement is a great way to highlight those meaningful experiences that helped you really explore graduate school and really feel prepared in taking the leap forward to your readiness. The personal history statement, I feel, does a great job of showing your maturity overall in many spaces: professional, personal, leading up to your academic maturity. And to categorize this, we like to think about some checklist questions. There are things that you can ask yourself, what has motivated me, as Elise mentioned? What experiences felt very deeply impactful, and how do they connect each time I'm thinking about taking that leap forward to pursuing a graduate degree? And it really sets the tone for your story and helps give us a visualization of what you're trying to convey to us as the admissions committee. Because we don't have an interview process, we really want you to put it out there and really help us understand what you're trying to convey to us. And when we think about formative experiences, as we mentioned, this could mean barriers, this could mean reflective turning points, this could mean areas that have shaped your thinking, your growth, and you want to be very specific about your examples. That way we can see what you've learned, how you've gained those skill sets or that knowledge to, again, take the leap forward into feeling as prepared as you are now. What this does is it helps demonstrate resilience, self-awareness, and truly that personal growth that we know is ever changing. And we really love to see that because we feel that those experiences align with our mission, vision, and values as a university and our program. And more importantly, you being a very important contributing member into the program. You're going to really bring your full self in here. The other bit, as I mentioned, is the academic professional growth. It doesn't matter where you land if you want to speak from an academic experience, both a professional experience, but what you do choose to put in your essays should at least highlight any contributions to your skills, your leadership, and your readiness. That's really the big piece of this personal history statement. Is it's reflective. It points out your motivating reasoning for where you're at now, and it really emphasizes that maturity. You're going to come across hard discussions and things that are going to challenge you in grad school, and we really want you to be as prepared as possible. And as we've been talking quite a bit, a lot of re-emphasizing the motivation for graduate school or public health connection, I think this is a really great opportunity for you to explain, what has been that bright shining light into helping you feel ready to pursue graduate school. Why is right now the right time for you? And how does it align with your future goals? What this does is it gives us an idea of where you're starting now and what you hope to share. And as Elise will share in the statement of purpose, that really drills down your fit and a little bit more specific to the program or the concentration. But this just gives us the insight as to what has been pushing you forward. So it's really giving a lot of I think what it does is it highlights that energy in a statement that we love to see. So it connects to past experiences, future aspirations, and career goals. And your goals might be very specific to you. It might be that you're using this program to upskill, to advance, to pivot. This is a lot of information to work with. So really make sure to think about how those experiences all connect to each other rather than just throwing words out. Really think about, really reflect on, how does this experience connect to this? Then kind of takes you, it's always a step forward. Every sentence should really help us move forward into your reasoning. And to close out the conclusion, we really want to reinforce your growth, your readiness, and your future goals. Think about closing with a forward-looking statement that shows the impact that you hope to make, because this is really telling for who you are as a person, what you're excited about, and it really gives the reader a strong understanding of your journey and purpose. And as Elise mentioned, formative experiences can kind of dive back into learning curves, things that might have been an uneven pathway. So if you are talking about grades or personal experience, it could be medical related, personal related. Those are things that have shaped you, and that's okay to put in your essays. We really want students to use those and lean into those as strengths rather than gaps. The more important piece is, what have you learned from it? How has that help build you forward and really put a battery in your back to say, I'm going to push forward, I'm going to push through, and this is what I've gained from this and made you a stronger person overall. Um, I hope that, gives you something to think about. But as we move into the next slide, I'm so excited to dive into this. I'll go ahead and read Abby's essay. And thank you so much, Abby, for allowing us to capture some of the topics that you've addressed in your own essays. We'll read this together and we'll share why we really liked this here. And we have a couple questions that we'll ask you, Abby. So I'll kick off with this personal history statement here. After my first couple of weeks in college, I felt a sense of tension between my dreams of becoming a doctor and the reality of the world I was living in. I was starting to see the differences between me and other students. Most of the students I interacted with didn't have to work during college, didn't have to rely on the campus food pantry for survival, and didn't have to go to the office hours to make up for a lack of science education. I was awakening to the idea that I was less than and others were more than, or the difference in our socioeconomic status. I had to rephrase my thinking. Instead of what treatment should a doctor provide, I asked, where and in what condition was the patient living in? Instead of how much it should cost to treat this patient, I asked what could be done to make healthcare more affordable, and in what ways could healthcare coverage expand. Instead of what medication and therapy should a doctor prescribe, I asked, what effect chronic homelessness and discrimination had on the patient? To fix disparities in health outcomes between racial groups, socioeconomic status, sex, gender identity, and place of origin, the true culprit, inequity, or inequality, has to be dealt with long before the symptoms of it can be effectively treated. I quickly changed my academic course, dropping pre-med and picking up public policy and public health. I'd found my niche, tackling the world's health disparities by understanding the biological processes that led to certain decisions and creating policy that would incentivize healthy behaviors. And mind you, we only pulled excerpts, so this is not the full essay, but I really liked this piece here because it's a powerful self-discovery showing how personal adversity sparked by an intellectual shift from clinical medicine to systemic policy change. It captures motivation, resiliency, and an analytical mindset. So what I saw here was somebody that was reflective on where they started and having a heart-to-heart with oneself, right? Really thinking about, well, I wanted to start in this pathway, but I'm learning more and more about what I'm seeing. And I'm having this transformative experience with my own self. So there's a lot of moving factors, but all of these seem to be coming back to a motivating question is like, how do I address this? And what should I be asking? And what should I be doing? And I think it really sparks accountability and awareness. And I just think Abby did such a phenomenal job in highlighting these transitional points. They all connect with each other. And with that said, I wanted to shift our questions over to you, Abby, if that's okay. I'd like to start off with asking you, how did you incorporate reflections and barriers or challenges that you face, and why did you think those were important to include, as we see this in your first paragraph here?
Yeah, great question. I think that one of the things that I was thinking when I was writing this personal statement is that there was a sense of resiliency in getting through my undergraduate education. I'm a first gen college student. I grew up in rural Ohio. So there were barriers there that I did not realize were barriers until I was in college, and realized how much harder I would have to work than people who may be set up differently for a college education. And I think that has been really the motivating factor for why I wanted to, go after public health in the first place. Um, so I think it was really important for me to include, like, some of these more difficult experiences that motivated me to choose public health. And I think, like, when I think back to my college career, there are certain, like, circumstances that I went through, um, good and bad, that really shaped what I wanted to do with my future career and what I wanted to do with my education. So it was really important to me that that was included in my personal statement, because that is my personal history. That's my story. So.
Thank you for that. And I think this kind of ties to the next question as well. You did a really fantastic job with your essays about balancing what you wanted to include. So the question I have for you is, how did you balance sharing personal stories while keeping the essay professional and focused?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was maybe not so much focusing on the emotions of how I was feeling during these things, although that is valuable. That's not really what, like, an academic institution is looking for, or even like a job interview or anything like that. It is looking for, okay, these things happened, great. Now you can look back on them, reflect on them, and um see how that motivated you, inspired you, caused you to change directions, whatever it is. And I think that was the more important story that a personal statement was looking for.
And I have one more question here. How did you decide which personal experiences to include in the body of your essays? Because I think a lot of times students kind of come to a crossroads of where does this belong? And you kind of alluded to this, but I'm curious if you have any tips, or how did you personally decide, what belonged there?
Yeah, so I think, like, even looking at, I know you guys don't have my entire personal history statement, but I think the events that I included in it were ones that shifted my thinking in a way that led me to a different path or a different action step. So this one obviously was me talking about, like, I was realizing the socioeconomic difference between me and my classmates, or the educational difference between me and my classmates. And that really made me start to consider, like, is this, like, yes, I want to be in healthcare in some way, but is it something that I think I could do to focus on the patient, the individual in front of me, or is it something where I really would like to address some of those more upstream issues that put the patient in that position in the first place? And for me, I decided that I wanted to pursue public health instead. Um, and I think, like, the next event in my personal history statement did the same thing, where I had an experience, it shifted my thinking, and I chose to do something differently. And I think, like, that was the formula that worked for me in terms of writing my personal history statement.
Yeah, it was a great essay. We really found, I thought it was very cohesive, and it spoke a lot to about what you cared about. And I think that brought the emotion. But as you know, we see here is very aligned, and just really speaks to what you'll share next. So with that said, I'm going to pass this over to Elise to talk a little bit more about the statement of purpose.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, Abby, for sharing your thought process as you wrote your essays. I think that's so helpful. So yes, we're going to switch gears and talk about the second essay that is required as part of your application, which is your statement of purpose. And so this is going to differ from your personal history statement. It may still include personal experiences, but the goals of this essay are a little bit different. So it's less about, helping the admissions committee understand your context, your personal context, your lived experiences and the things that led you to the degree. And this is going to be again a little bit more about your purpose. So where do you hope to go? Where do you hope this degree will take you? Why an MPH? Why UC Berkeley? Your professional goals, things like that. And so, as Stephanie mentioned, we're going to send out this slide, which has all the detail, but I want to kind of hit these points quickly. As you are writing your statement of purpose, you may want to think about your writing strategy. I would say this is true for both essays, but keep the prompt in mind, reflect on the prompt throughout the writing process to make sure that every part of your essay is addressing that prompt. It's easy, I know for myself personally, it's easy for my writing to sometimes like a story will take me in a different direction and it's helpful to come back to the prompt and ask yourself, is this narrative that I added, does it add value to the prompt? Does it address the question that the prompt is asking? I would say your statement of purpose is also a really good place to answer the why us question. So, why the UC Berkeley online MPH? And I want to really dig into this because I think this is one of the most important things that your statement of purpose can do is address the why us question. Our faculty admissions committee, they love to hear what it is you love about UC Berkeley. So I highly encourage you to spend a little bit of time on the website, reading about the program, looking into any faculty whose research interests you, looking at course schedule, looking at our list of our classes, our curriculum, and seeing which classes stand out to you. Um, Taking some time to think about why an online program is the right format for you. All of that might seem obvious to you, but it's not obvious to the admissions committee. So you definitely want to tell us, if you are a working professional and online is just the best fit for you because you want to balance work and school and other life responsibilities, tell us that. This is a great place to put that. If you want to pursue this degree because you're super interested in health policy and you really like one of the classes that we offer, maybe you want to learn more about health economics, tell us about that and the specific class that stood out to you. Tell us what it is about UC Berkeley that you feel like resonates. Maybe it's our focus on social justice or health equity. Maybe that's part of why UC Berkeley feels like a good culture fit for you. So these are things to spend some time brainstorming and definitely to include in your statement of purpose. Um, as I've mentioned a number of times, this is also a great place to talk about your professional goals. Are you pivoting careers? Are you looking to upskill and like maybe advance in your current career? Any other like specific topics within public health that you're hoping to address? Things like that are really good to talk about here. This also might be a great place to talk about, why graduate school at all. I think it's really connected to those future goals. The faculty want to make sure that the MPH degree and the degree that we're offering is actually the right next step for you based on what your goals are. We want to ensure that you're going to get out of this program what you hope to. And so it's important to explain why graduate school at all is the right next step for your goals. You might also want to say why now, why at this point in your career, at this point in your life, why is this the right time for you to go to school? And then, again, academic engagement. I feel I touched on this a little bit, but it might even be like a faculty member you want to get some mentorship from, or maybe it's just the fact that UC Berkeley has a high touch program. We have a lot of access to faculty. Those are all good things to include here. So please feel free to use this checklist and sort of refer back to it throughout your writing process. And we have another excerpt from Abby's statement of purpose, which we're very grateful that she's allowing us to use. So I will go ahead and read that out and then ask Abby a few questions about her statement of purpose writing process. So Abby says, after learning of the stark health disparities Alaskans face and developing a personal passion for community-based care, I've grown to understand the need for large-scale public health aid in this niche environment. My background is cognitive science and decision making. My background in cognitive science and decision making provide a foundation in understanding integral program implementation tactics, such as how the communication of health information influences health decisions. In furthering my education through graduate school, I hope to study community-based implementation in rural, circumpolar areas that utilizes effective health communication. The combination of decision sciences and public health is not a new idea. Health communication is integral to successful programs, implementation, and improved health outcomes. Linda Neuheiser, a clinical professor of community health sciences at UC Berkeley School of Public Health and co-principal investigator at the Health Research in Action Center, has identified that there is a lack of effective health communication for diverse populations and focuses her research on the development of communication strategies that positively influence health behavior that meet people's literacy and cultural needs. So, great excerpt from Abby's essay. And there's a few things that really stand out. So we see that Abby's linked her goals and her desire to pursue an MPH with her background. So that cognitive science and decision-making background, she's linked it also to a personal passion within the field of public health. So she's identified a specific area of public health that she's hoping to focus and learn more. She's talking about a specific UC Berkeley faculty member that stood out. It sort of illustrates that she's done a bit of research on the program, that there's a personal connection, and that this is a strong alignment between our program and her goals. So, Abby, I want to ask, this is obviously a lot of revisions usually occur in the writing process. So, were there moments when you had to cut or revise experiences to make the narrative feel more focused? And how did you choose what to keep, what to remove? Walk us through your process.
Yeah, there were definitely some experiences that I needed to cut. There are a lot more experiences on my resume. There are a lot more experiences I might include in like a cover letter or something like that, but that's not exactly what this is asking for. And I think the key here was that I really wanted to make that connection between my background in cognitive science, which for the record, I studied cognitive and computational neuroscience and did some cognitive psychology research. And my passion that I had, really developed after going on a public health trip to Alaska right before my senior year of college. And I think the big thing in trying to convey that Berkeley was the right fit and that my MPH was the next best step is like I have this background and I have this passion, but now I need the training to make that happen. And this is where I think I'm going to best be able to do that. And sure, there are a lot of other experiences that I may have been able to highlight that honestly would have fit. But I think like reducing it down to my research experience and my first job experience, which was in legal research. Uh, I think that was the best scenario or the best strategy for how I wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thanks for walking us through like a little bit more context and how you approached the writing process because I think yeah, it's so true. Like the difference between the statement of purpose versus like a cover letter, and I appreciate you sort of distinguishing that. So, in that thought process, what did you want to leave the reader with? In your final paragraph of your statement of purpose, what was kind of the end thing that you hope to leave the admissions committee with?
Yeah, I wanted them to know that I thought that I was a good fit for Berkeley because of my background and how that aligns with research that's already being done. I am really excited about like health communication strategies and health promotion strategies, and I know that that research is being done at Berkeley, so I know that there is something that I can add to the table as well. Um, and that Berkeley specifically is going to give me the tools that I need to do what I hope to do in my career, which I think. Thank you, Susan. Um, which I knew I wanted to do something with rural health and with those health communication strategies and program implementation and development. And those are the skills that I definitely have now, which is really cool to be almost at the end of my program in Berkeley. And a lot of those things are true of my education and like what I was able to give to Berkeley and what Berkeley was able to give to me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I think we just have a few sort of final thoughts that we want to leave you all with before we open it up for questions. Some do's and don'ts, if you will. You want to avoid repeating your job history. I think Abby really touched on this and articulated this well, but we have your resume. So you don't want to just regurgitate like a list of all of the jobs that you've had. Make sure that your essays are adding more context. They're connecting the dots between those experiences and meaning, direction, all of that. Uh, don't assume readers will make connections on your behalf. I think this is a really critical piece. So there are things that are so obvious to you as a person, you're easily able to connect that, well, I had this job, so obviously I'm passionate about X, Y, and Z. But don't leave that up to the admissions committee to make those connections. If there's something that you want them to know or understand about you, make sure to say it explicitly in your essays. And then don't rush the writing process. So I love that you folks are here and have chosen to take the time to join us tonight, which means you are on top of things and you're going to have plenty of time to work on your essays. Highly encourage you to have a few iterations, do a brainstorming session, make an outline, write a draft, have proofreaders, all of that. And that process does take time. So make sure you allow for that. Some do's. Remember that your personal history statement and statement of purpose are distinct and have different purposes. You want to make sure that they're not repeating each other too much, that they're adding different things to your application. I mentioned this, but definitely do a brainstorm and have some reviewers. We all like we proofread our own work, and it's easy for us to overlook little details. So definitely ask a friend, family member, a coworker, someone who is not yourself to do a proofread for you. It's so helpful. Make sure that your writing is clear, concise, coherent, and that every sentence counts. I think this is, again, making sure that you are addressing the prompt throughout the application or throughout your essay. And then in terms of formatting, we're looking for Arial or Times New Roman and a size 12 font. And if you are looking to get in touch with us, this is our email address. You can also book a one-on-one advising appointment with Stephanie. She is the best. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. She will be so helpful to you. And then we have a few more information sessions coming up. So definitely join us to talk a little bit more about, how to apply your personal background to public health and spending a little bit of time with one of our student ambassadors. All right, so we'll pause the recording and open things up for Q&A. And questions can be about essays, about the program. We're so grateful to have Abby here with us. So if you have questions about her experience as a student or the program generally, ask away.